Good evening and Jai Hind to one and all. Well, I'm Shomi Pandey from Sunbeam English School, Bhagwanpur, and today I'm there just to try out this live session, and I'm here to tell you a story which is from a book that is Here Comes the Sun, and this is called the Read for Pleasure book, and this is kind of I would say a cornucopia of 23 beautiful stories written. You can see that it's written with 23 brilliant stories, and they are written by our own sunbeams. That means children of our school, but yes, of various branches. Okay, so today, you see, just few minutes back, I had recorded two stories from this book because you see, our children are going to have an examination very soon. So I thought of why not narrating the story so that children, when they listen to it, they would get the feel, right? Okay, so today I'm here on live to share a beautiful story named Road to Roots. Okay, and it's written by Sriniti V. She's she's from our own branch, that is Sunbeam School, Bhagwanpur. Okay, so before I talk about her story, I would like to read out her profile. On February 23rd, 2005, at the Hande Hospital in Chennai, I came into existence in the loving hands of my maternal grandmother. Being born in Chennai and growing up in Varanasi was really contributed to my vibrant personality. I am my parents' only child, so you can imagine how pampered I am. But I must say, she's a wonderful child, wonderful girl. And yes, she excels in her academics too. Okay. It has also contributed to my being an insatiable bibliophile, as every gift has come in the form of books. Speaking of which, Dan Brown's The Last Symbol and Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood are two of my favorite books. I'm also a trained singer in Indian classical and a national level player in roller skating. Wow, she's jack of all trades. Okay, I'm also a cinephile. Movies have always been my escape to various corners of the world. I enjoyed watching Independence Day resurgence. In food, I experiment a lot. I love trying different cuisines from around the world, but Italian food has a special place in my heart. I'd like to be described as a millennial kid with an old soul. You can always find me lost in a fantasy world with a book in one hand and a mug of coffee in the other. So, you see, I can really correlate myself with her. Okay, that's a wonderful profile, Srinidhi. Congratulations for this beautiful story which you have written, and I'm hoping to see some more works from you. Okay, Road to Roots. The topic, the heading itself, makes me feel really carried away, makes me feel very nostalgic, makes me feel little bit sensitive and emotional. Let's see what this young girl has to talk about her road to roots. Banaras is older than history, older than tradition, older even than legend, and looks twice as old as all of them put together. A beautiful quote to start with by Mark Twain. Maya lived in England, yet had heard a lot about the glory of Banaras, the cultural capital of India. Vivid descriptions about the mystic beauty of Banaras had fueled her wanderlust. So she decided to visit the city of temples to uncover its hidden charm for herself. Immediately, she felt a profound connection to it. She loved its ghats and temples and found Ganga's waters calming. The city celebrated both life and its passage with equal fervor. Maya walked on the newly constructed Kashi Vishwanath corridor, an easy passageway between Kashi Vishwanath temple and the Ghats. So you see, Maya is the first character of the story, and she tends to be there. I'm sorry, I was disconnected. Okay. So the story starts with the beautiful, setting of our own city, that is Varanasi, which was before, called as Banaras. Okay. And it seems, the road has traveled from England to Banaras. It seems that is why, the story has been named as Road to Roots. So let me guess, might be, she's trying to take out something from Varanasi as she's settled in England. So let's see what Banaras has stored. I mean, what Banaras has to give her in her life, in her days. Let's see. Okay, so now this is on page number 250. To build the corridor, some old properties had to be demolished. As a result, several temples from different eras were exposed. Unbeknownst to the people who lived in those houses, the temples had remained there for centuries. Seeing a magnificent temple, Maya entered it. It smelled of sandalwood incense. Temple bells jingled and a conch shell sounded. That is the shank. In the elaborate patterns etched on the walls, she saw a gold embossed border. Suddenly, it felt familiar. Okay, so now the beautiful story seems to have started from this point. When she was in her early teens, her grandmother fell seriously ill. On her deathbed, the grandmother called Maya, held her hand, and looked into her eyes and said, Maya, all my life I have kept a secret hidden in my heart. But now I must tell you. When your grandfather was a child, he was separated from his family and was taken to London by his foster parents. Okay, he had no vivid memories of his childhood, but he did have an ancestral bangle, an heirloom. He gave me that bangle before he took his last breath. He gave me that bangle before he took his last breath. Now I give it to you. So, children, now the story starts from this point. It sounds to be a little bit intriguing. I think it's all about that bangle which the grandmother is transferring to Maya. Okay, and this bangle will help them identify you as my granddaughter. This is your grandparents' last wish. Okay, so the wish was that the grandmother wanted to just unveil the secret. Okay, so I can see somebody is writing Jai Hind, ma'am. Jai Hind, my dear. So I want you to keep on watching so that the story is clear. Okay, back to the present. Maya recalled that the temple design in Boston Gold was the same design as in the bangle. Okay, so now she is, actually correlating the design which she had watched in that temple and then the design which she was having in that bangle. Okay, so Maya recalled that the temple design in Boston Gold was the same design in that bangle. Okay. She took a photo of the design and texted her mother, asking for a photo of the ancestral bangle. So now that CID kind of a thing, that investigation, that okay, so you got an evidence and now you're trying to put things and sort out the puzzle. Okay, so Jai Hind, Reena said Jai Hind, bestie, gloat, whosoever is this, please. I would be very elated if you write your own name. It's easier to, you know, find your own children being live. Okay. Maya then approached the main temple priest. He was thrilled to converse with a foreigner and was amazed by Maya's command of the Hindi language. Okay, so as usual, all the Varanasi, what should I say? I mean, no offense to any of the pundits, but then all of us feel really thrilled when we find some foreigners conversing and then, trying to create a conversation. And then we tend to talk more about the Varanasi as a city, and then the lanes, and then the ghats, and then the lassi, the Pehelwan lassi, remember? And then not to forget the Banarsi silk. So, that is how we all try to initiate. And the pundits, they start talking about the various temples and the beauty of the temples and how they are indebted, to the Almighty and all. So, let's see. The priest knew of the family who lived where the temple had been discovered. One of the family members was a middle aged man named Mrityunjay who knew a lot about the temple's history. So now there comes yet another character. Please note down it's Mrityunjay. When the ancient house was demolished, the family had moved to a place nearby. She took down Mrityunjay's address and went to meet him. Mrityunjay welcomed Maya to his room. His body was that of a middle aged man, but his eyes were young and vivacious. Please underline these two words to describe Mrityunjay, that is, young and vivacious. He told her all he knew about the temple and the architect. My grandfather used to tell me about this temple. It was built in the 15th century and was one of the most sacred temples of its times. The only thing I remember about the architect is that he belonged to the Sutradhar family. So now this is Sutradhar family, which we have to remember for the MCQ questions. Okay, so okay, Tanay, enjoy. No need to send those emojis because I'm just sharing this as a part of my class, so I cannot chat. Anyway, nice to see my children here. Okay. Uh, all right, let's move on. So now this is the Sutradhar family, which the author is now talking about. The only thing I remember about the architect is that he belonged to the Sutradhar family, one of the most respected families of that time. Maya took copious notes while he spoke. So Maya was busy in, jotting down all the details like an investigator. Okay, she now had a hazy idea about the architect, but she had to know if there were any surviving descendants. So, a very obvious question which comes to our mind is that, we tend to ask that, okay, do we have any descendants whom we can contact or things like that? Okay, so every city has a genealogical charts of its original inhabitants. Maya thought of going to the city administration and tracing the whereabouts of the architect's surviving descendants. It wasn't entirely possible that she would succeed, but there was no harm in trying. Okay, on the way to the city municipality, she Googled the legal processes and prepared for what lay ahead. So, she, being a millennial kid, started, Google, just checking out the Google Devta. And then she might have had some, some evidences. Let's see. At the office, the Tehsildar sent her to the civilian records office, where he said his nephew Vedant would help her with the records. So now Vedant is the next character after Mrityunjay. After hours of searching and flipping the pages of old registers, Okay, so she's now looking for all the descendants. Vedant came to the conclusion that the administration had lost track of the family over time. He got as far as discovering that the Sutradhar family's last known descendant was Shivam. So now the last descendant of the Sutradhar family was Shivam. Okay. He was born in the 1940s and lived somewhere in Banaras. Maya was back to square one. But Vedant said to her, there is still a chance, don't lose hope. There is still a chance. In the city of Gaya, almost all Indians have their genealogies registered. A friend works at one such facility. With his help, we could find your family. I can accompany you. Okay. Maya felt her hope reviving. So, she was totally drenched out. She was feeling really sorry. But then, when he talked about that Gaia genealogical office, so she was little bit, she revived. There was that hope against hope. Okay, the next morning they landed in Gaya and went straight to the genealogy office where Vedant's friend worked. Maya was surprised to find that in these digital times, they still kept records on paper and even on palm leaves. Maya was amused by this juxtaposition. After hours of searching and several cups of tea, Maya found what she sought. Shivam and his two sons were living in Banaras near Dashashwamedh Ghat. Okay, so back to square one in Varanasi. On returning to Banaras, Maya took a taxi to Shivam's house. She could not stop smiling. The congested lanes of Dashashwamedh ignited a homely feeling in her. So now she was feeling, that nostalgia. She sensed something was there in that Varanasi through which she was also connected. So that was the reason why she was feeling little bit, relatable things. On reaching the address, she took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Knock, knock. A woman in her mid 30s opened the door. After Maya told her the reason for her visit, she refused to let her meet Shivam. Maya was stunned. Why somebody would, refuse after knowing the details? So, something was very fishy. We say dal mein hi kuch kala hai. It seemed as if the whole dal was, kala. The woman thought Maya was a con artist and started to quarrel with her. Maya decided to leave as she did not want to create a scene. She asked the woman for just one favor. Please show this picture of a bangle to Shiva. So now, when she was not in the mood of creating a scene, so she just said, okay, fine, do me a favor, I'll just go away from this place. Just show this picture of the bangle to Shiva. Okay. The woman scowled and shut the door quickly. Maya was dejected. The picture of the bangle slipped from her hand onto the ground. She walked away in utter disbelief. An old man nearby had been watching all the altercation. Okay. He picked up the picture and said, wait right there. Where did you find this? It's my grandfather's. He took it when he was separated from his family in his childhood. Okay? The man hurried back into the house and returned with a childhood photo of his younger brother. Is this your grandpa? He asked with his hope in his eyes. Maya nodded like this, Yes, yes, yes. The man burst into tears and took Maya into his arms. Maya was crying too, but these were happy tears. She was overjoyed and knew that she had fulfilled her promise to her grandmother. Banaras is indeed magical. Okay? So, road to roots. So, what was the road to roots like? It was just, a connection, okay, of Maya. Maya's grandparents, okay, and how Maya was connected to Banaras. All right, because it was told by her grandmother that her grandfather had foster parents who had, just who just started living in London, took her grandpa there, and then just settled there. So there was no more connection of her foster parents with Banaras, all right? But then somehow Maya was supposed to be knowing, the relation, all right? So how she was related with Varanasi. Okay, so this whole story is very emotional. Um, don't try to take it very logically. Just try and think about what Maya must have felt towards the end when she was able to keep up with the promise which she made to her grandmother, rather to her grandparents. She was able to find out her link with her grandparents. Probably, I would say her link with Varanasi. Okay, so I would just end up here. I want all my children to go through this story very nicely, very carefully, and try to take out some notes regarding the characters who are very important in this story. And what exactly do you think Maya might have felt towards the end? Okay, so I would like to end up here, and I want all of you to go through the story and take down notes, and then we shall meet again in our class with an open discussion. Till then, thank you and Jai Hind, and all of you, please take care of yourselves, because this is the time when the weather is changing and we tend to switch over from our summer clothes to the onset of winter. Let's welcome this onset of winter with the end of this Diwali. Take care. Till then, bye. Good night.